Hello, beautiful stars. Welcome to Stars of the Morning Light. I am Courtney, your host, and today we have Cyndi Washington. Yay! Cyndi is going to be at the New Earth Energy Market, April 29th. Her screen is a little blurry, but I'm kind of digging it today. Cyndi, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Cyndi is a Reiki master teacher. She does breath work meditations, and she's also kind of co-working with somebody else for sisterhood circles or she group functions that are local here in the Chattanooga area. So Cyndi, every time somebody's first on this channel, I ask, what is your personal definition of awakening?
Okay, well, great. Good question. And I can give you only from my experience. And my experience is when I felt that I was awakening, things started to change, how I looked at things, how I handled everything. And I noticed that first of all, I was more emotional, through a lot of it. But that was a good thing because I think for years I lived closed off. I had shut things down. So it was good to be emotional. But for me, some of the things that I've learned is that I started to see that there were lessons in everything I went through, that everything didn't have to be a struggle or bad or anything. It was just what it was. It was just there for lessons for me. And I think the biggest thing was learning love and forgiveness, because the two things that I learned is that, first of all, everything is love, and that forgiveness goes hand in hand with that. And it's important to have that forgiveness in order to love. That to look at everybody as because we truly are, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and to be able to see that, to be able to look at someone and look them in the eye and see that spirit inside, to see the essence of them, and to be able to accept that no matter what, and know that everybody, as we go through this day to day, none of us came with an instruction manual on how to do it. So we go through, and to be accepting of each other and support each other. So yeah.
I love that, Cyndi, because I think you might be the first. There's a lot of firsts here. That's why I asked this question, so everybody might relate in different ways.
Yes.
I think you're the first that brought up the emotional aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The amount.
Yeah.
That you. Yeah. Out of curiosity, just because I know my audience, how did you work through that? Being able to see somebody as, the spirit of who and that they're probably going through just as much pain as you did.
Yes.
And how was that for you? I mean, how were you able to navigate that?
Well, I think for me, I just knew that, and let me say this, because for years I carried a lot of anger, anger and hurt feelings, because that's what happens when we're injured, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it can turn into anger for any of us. It doesn't always, but for me it did. And so I kind of shut down, and I realized I didn't like that. I was, it felt like dead inside. So for me to kind of start looking at where that came from, and to start with the people who I was the most angry with, and to work on that first, and to be able to say, okay, I am angry. I'm angry, but let me try to see beyond the anger, and what was it for them? What was it like for them? And I think once you can start to see their vulnerabilities, and maybe where their hurts were, and why then they in turn hurt other people. So to take that and to learn and to see, what did I learn from that struggle? What did I learn from that hurt? And to be able to really look in someone's eye. And it's I've gone through all kinds of personal growth seminars and things like that over the years, but to learn to look somebody really in the eye, and to really see them, And that makes a huge difference to me, to really look at them and to really say, how are you? And take the time to listen to how are you really? And it
Yeah.
made, to just, and admit, I think admitting my hurts, my anger, and realizing that I'm human just like everybody else and we're struggling. And so let's be loving and supportive of one another.
Yeah, I love that, Cyndi. The looking somebody in the eye. I didn't realize that people really struggled with that.
They do,
And
they do. They absolutely do. Some people feel uncomfortable and they'll turn away from you.
yeah, it's a that's a and I think it's become even more popular in society to hide that way or to not feel comfortable doing it. Because I mean, when I grew up, it was mandatory in my house. You
Yes,
in
yeah.
the, and that went for everyone I came in contact with. So it wasn't until I was in my 30s really that I started noticing no one's looking at each other.
Mhm.
So sad because so much is uh, so much is communicated that way and even silently. It's so
Absolutely, absolutely. Just to stand and look, you've heard the expression, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I'm sure that you've done it just like I have. You've looked into someone's eyes and you actually can feel their pain or their happiness, and it's like, that's the most wonderful and most intimate time in the world, to be able to feel that moment with someone, to share that. We carry sometimes lifetimes of sorrow in those eyes. So yeah, to be able to have somebody look in your eyes and say, I see you, I really see you.
yeah, I really see you. And I think that's what, now we live in the world that everybody does this stuff, see me and be so
Or we
radical.
have something up in front
Oh,
of us where we're putting,
yes,
yeah.
right. But to actually have that
Mm-hmm.
that connection. That's so lovely. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about that. I know I have, but I
Yeah.
guess if they've actually spoken about that. When did the breathing work kind of come into play?
Well, in 2019, I got the guidance that I needed to go to Sedona. And then when I say I got the guidance, I was in a meditation and heard the message, saw the red rocks, had never been there, had never been one of those, oh, I need to go to Sedona, but followed the guidance. And I thought, oh, I'll go in 2020, in spring of 2020. And it was like, no, you won't, you're going this year. And I said, okay, I'll go this year. So I did. Well, of course, we all know why I didn't, why 2020 couldn't happen, because I'd have never made it. But part of when I decided I would go, I said, I'm going to go with a purpose and I'm going alone. So I made a solo trip and I did a retreat. And part of the retreat, because you spend a lot of time talking to someone planning this, and they decided what I needed. It wasn't me going, oh, I'll take column A and column B. It's like, no, these are the things that from talking to you, we feel you need. And breathwork was one of those. And I met the most wonderful woman who we did feel like we had a soul connection, and but we spent time talking ahead of time. And then she taught me how to do the breath work. And literally I laid on a mat, which is what most people do. And it's kind of a cylinder, like a cylinder, kind of a cyclical breathing, where you don't have there's no pause between inhalation and exhalation. It's like breathing in and out, breathing in and out. So in some form, you get to a little bit of a hyperventilation. And if any of us ever did that as kids, we know what happens. You get a lightheaded, but that's kind of the purpose, because it gets us out of our heads and lets us drop into our heart center. And that's what happens is you do that breathing, and it goes on for a while. It's done with music in the background. So it's a deep meditation, but it totally transformed me. I got messages that I needed to hear. I felt like I was floating at one point. I mean, I don't know where all I went, but afterwards I felt like I had traveled, but I was also the most relaxed I'd ever been, and just felt like a new person. And it's something that, you can do, you don't do every day because of how deep of a meditation it is, but weekly or so is a good idea. And there's all kinds of forms of it, but I came back and said, I need to learn how to do this more. Everybody needs to know how to do this. And so was working with some people out there and found someone who was a neighbor of the person that did my session with me, but because she wasn't teaching, but her neighbor was. And her neighbor was into a lot of the quantum thinking and the quantum shifts, and has studied under Bruce Lipton and people like that, and said, yes, I'm getting ready to do some teaching. And so at first I felt like I was lost, but it was the most wonderful experience in the world for me, because it really got me out of my head and let me really feel what was going on and understand that so much of what we want to believe is around us it's our illusions. It's what we create. And so to get into that higher consciousness and to do that breath work, to breathe in and out and keep that going. And then the music will guide you through the chakras, because of course our chakras kind of relate to different tones. So when you get into those lower chakras, your base and your sacral chakra, it's more of a drum beat and a deeper tone. And then when you get up to the top, the crown and the third eye, it's more ethereal. So you're getting all that guidance, excuse me, the whole time. And it's just, to me, it's just transformative. I never go through a session that it's not just so much information for me, and just relaxing at the same time. I've done it with groups of people, and what's amazing is that because the facilitator just holds space for it, but we will get the same kind of images that the person going through the breath work gets. And it's just amazing to say, well, I saw, because, it's like, oh, I saw this huge bird. Oh, yes, I saw that too. You were riding on that big bird. So it's that kind of thing. At one point, there was a group of probably 8 or 10 of us doing breath work. And it was Zoom. We were all around the country. And it was amazing how many of us had some of the similar feelings throughout that breath work. Someone would start to say, oh, I felt this way. And another person would, I did too. And so there's some common threads, but it's just the messages that you get that can be, I've seen the whole group just transform that I've worked with this. And it's amazing to me. I find it very calming, very reassuring. And just,
Cyndi, are you facilitating it now as well?
Yes, I am. I do facilitate that. We don't have a lot of people that know a lot about it here. So when I say breath work, they think, oh, okay, that's cute. That's meditation, and I can breathe in and out. And it's like, it's more than that.
Yeah. Those who watch here, Stars of the Morning Light, we're doing a very deep dive into Edgar Cayce. And one of the materials that we're reading is they talk about the pause that you should take between the inhale and the exhale. And in that pause is the truth of your soul.
Yes.
So a lot of what you're talking about, the no pausing it induces.
It does. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I know also that you have now partnered up with Gina from New Chapters Holistic, who is also going to be at the event on April 29th in Ringgold, Georgia, for her New Chapters Holistic Wellness Center. So I'm going to assume that now you're also going to have a space where people can lay out and do this.
Yes, I have a space where I can, because I do Reiki there too, but I have a space that's big enough to put a mat down, and it's a nice big full-size mat so that you can move around as much as you want on it. It's nice and thick. My family's actually slept on it when they had to. So it's comfortable to be on. And because these sessions last about an hour to an hour and a half. And of course, then afterwards you have to go, because you go in through a guided meditation. And when you come out, of course, there's a time when you have to get acclimated back to being in the present moment. because you've traveled out here all over the place and seen whatever you were supposed to see. So you have to get acclimated back to your body before you can get up and start moving again. So yeah, there is a nice space I've got for that. And I look forward to really working with people on it, because I just find it very transformative.
Yeah. So it helped you, I'm going to assume it helped you with that awakening process.
It did. It was a huge part of it because of the messages I got during my very first session. One of the things that and I'll just tell you, one of the things I struggled with for a long time was just belonging, just feeling like I belonged someplace and I had a right to be here. And one of the messages I got was that I belonged and that I could come back to where they took me anytime I wanted, that there I was loved and I belonged and it was fine. And so that was a wonderful feeling to know that. And that feeling didn't leave, it stayed, and it only built upon that. So yes, I've had sessions where I felt like I was taken to, my personal belief is that I've had past lives. So I've been, taken back to past lives and allowed to see how that went. And, but also to have people come in who I needed to work on forgiveness with, and to be able to have that forgiveness with them, to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. And I wish more people use meditation, period, for,
Absolutely. Yes.
it's for me personally, and those that listen here know that for me, like your two pillars or your cornerstones, what have you, for any spiritual growth is meditation and gratitude. I mean, no matter
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
yeah. That I wish more people would do that. And then the more you work with breath work or meditation, the more you get to have those kind of insights of going to past lives or getting that reassurance. Because you said not, having that sense of belonging, that's, Cyndi, I've met more people that first they had to go through that, acknowledging and believing, yes, you belong. And then that moved into then having to feel worthy. Like the two are totally different things.
They are. They absolutely are. Yeah.
Yeah. But it gets complicated with people. And it's like, well, first you got to acknowledge that you belong, because if you don't have that, you're definitely not going to start working on worthiness, and that's so difficult for so many people.
Yeah. And, you talked about gratitude. Right now I'm working on a program that one of the breathwork participants that I was in, she invited me to be part of it, but it's a Chopra, Deepak Chopra, 21 Days of Abundance. And the gratitude over and over, which, we know that, we hear it, but it's so true. It's like when we change that mindset, that gratitude is so important. So
Yes. It is. It's the key in many things. And it's hard. I think it's hard for people to start off there. But I try to tell everybody, I started doing gratitude, I think in 2006. So now I if I'm not well in the head, I just run my gratitude list and it instantaneously changes me. Yeah. So what are you going to be doing at the event? Are you going to be doing Reiki, or are you just kind of
I'm going to be doing Reiki. I would like to, I'm working on finding a way to do breath work in that setting, because it's a little bit, you want a little bit of privacy, and I'm trying to figure out how to do the music. So maybe headphones, but yeah, I would like to give people a sample of it at least. So
yeah. Maybe you could record yourself doing it or something. They could watch a video.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Because I understand that, because hopefully it's going to be pretty loud this time, because there's bodies in the room. So that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Now the sisterhood thing, you're working with Gina for the sister she's got a she group, but you're going to be working in the sisterhood thing with her. What are your goals and aspirations there?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we have very similar goals for what we want. We've talked about it, and we want a safe place for women to be, women from all backgrounds and beliefs, and it's safe for them to talk about their feelings, to talk about anything that's going on with them, and that we're not trying to fix each other. That is just you're heard here, you're validated, and that they get that love and support. We really need. Most people just want to know, they want to feel validated. They want to feel that somebody hears them. So to offer that especially to women from all walks of life, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, I took a look at it and I thought, as women, we can be very competitive and not as loving and supportive of each other as we think we are. We want to think we are. But when you look at it in the big picture, we're very competitive. We want to pit women who work or mothers who work versus mothers who stay at home, which is the best, women who choose not to be married, women who don't have children. And it's always like, whether it's a choice or not, sometimes we don't have the choice about whether or not we're going to have children. But we get, we're judged on that a lot, and people want to place these roles on us. And it's like, we don't need all of that. What we need is somebody who's just there to hear us. Even as far as, well, who makes the best cake, who makes the best this, and instead of supporting each other and going, oh, Courtney makes that best coconut cake, let me get her to make that. We say, oh, well, let me see if I can make one as good as Courtney. No. Let's celebrate Courtney's coconut cake because it's the absolute best I've ever had. And that's what we want to do. That's what Gina and I have, is this vision with the She Group, is to have this, that let's support each other, and we learn things in the process. And, whatever the message is what we need that day. But it's a time for people to be able to share. And share where you are right there. And if you don't feel like sharing, that's okay too. Nobody's going to say, well, leave the group because you don't share. It's right. Like, okay, welcome, sister. We're glad you're here.
I have to say, I'm actually happy that you and Gina are doing this. And this is not a good, bad, or indifferent, but I never experienced more until I moved down here, because I don't have children. And it really ended up because we just kept getting too old for it. And, I was, until I got down here, almost every older woman I met, or even other women women I met, when they found out I didn't have a child, they kept saying, oh, well, you still have time. Oh, you can still have a few. Oh, you can still do it. When my mind had already been made up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never experienced that before. And then they would like try to talk me into it, like convince me that I still had time, so I better start now. Yeah. And that I needed to do it. I just had never experienced anything like that. Or some other stuff that women do, I had never experienced. Yeah. Now we all know how catty women can be and stuff like that, but it's done differently from the north to the south. So everybody does it. All the women do it.
Everybody, you're right. Everybody does it, but it's how they do it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that I will say, especially for women that are moving to the south that are maybe not catching on quick, because it took me at least two to 3 years of really hardcore emotional stuff, because I didn't understand how was I walking away from these women feeling horrible about myself when they actually never said anything.
Yeah.
It was like they had this magic, and it took 3 years until my neighbor started saying something to me that I went, oh, the majority of all that I was feeling was them telling me I was not keeping up with the Joneses well enough.
Yes.
Like, that's a massive thing.
Yes.
But how they say it, I had no clue. Yeah. That's what was going on. And then I would walk away feeling horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every job, every this, every that,
mm-hmm.
it's just the dialogue's so different in how it's happened.
Yeah.
So even those that are relocating here, you might want to join and be a part of women that are trying to support themselves or support each other, because it caused a lot of turmoil because I had no clue what was happening.
No, and it can. And, you know, and it's the thing that when I started writing about, I was doing an exercise and writing about why I wanted to be part of women's groups, of sisterhood circles. And because I thought, well, maybe I don't have a why. And then when I started writing, it was like so profound to me. It's like, oh my goodness, for centuries, we've torn each other down, you know? And one of the things that stood out to me was I thought, during the Salem witch trials, there was other women who turned in women for being witches. And I thought, by practicing homeopathic remedies nowadays, that would have been considered witchcraft back in that time, you know? And I thought, how could we do that to one another? But we did. And yes, and women can be catty, and how it's done, you're right. And how it's done can make all the difference in the world too. Because I moved here too, and I had an adjustment from where I came from, that it was kind of different how they went about it. So
Yeah, it's just different. It's not. So I love the fact that you all are doing that, because it's needed, you know. And I try to tell young women, you know, okay, you might not have the best friends right now, or you might have one. Stick with that one, you know, because I think they're too, as women, hopefully emotionally mature as they get older, they do that more. They should bond together
yes.
instead of when you're in your 20s and it is feeling like it's competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, well, kind of what I experienced down here was I kind of felt like high school never ended, was
Yes.
kind of how it was. And you know how it in high school, they're your friend today and tomorrow they're with somebody else and talking about you. And so it felt like high school just wasn't ending to me. And I thought, no, it's different than that. And you know, I'm a great believer that our vibe attracts our tribe. And that it changes. And truly, some people are not meant to be in our lives forever. And as we grow and evolve and awaken, sometimes people drop off. They don't want to, they don't want to be part of that. So it's more, you know, when people want to, and I'll just use this as an example. If somebody wants to sit around and gossip about someone else, I don't necessarily want to be part of that anymore. So it's like, let me back off from that. Now, if that means that you don't want me part of your group, that may be what that means, and that's okay. I'm just not going to sit and be part of that, because that person, we're harming them whether we realize it or not, because we're setting impressions in other people's minds when we start to talk about them. And there's just no point in it. It serves no good purpose. So
Yeah, I agree too. And if you think of for me personally, if you think of like the law of three, if you do any harm onto another, it comes back on you three.
yes, yes.
Well, gossip's included in that.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we all do it here and there, but it's
Sure.
when it's a part of your normal daily routine, or because they feed off of it. People feed
Well, we
off.
do. And when you're telling a story about someone else and you're not speaking in positive terms in a way that you're going to bring help to them,
Right.
that's not good. That's not what, none of us need to do that. When you're just sharing someone's information without their permission, and to paint them in a bad light, that's not building us up. That is not being, to me, in my mind anyway, in my highest spiritual self that I can be. And that's important to me. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what the group is about, is to support each other and lift each other up. You're having a bad day. Let me just be here for you. Just tell me, what can I do? I'm not going to try to fix you, because you have the answers inside you, and you'll find the way to fix yourself. But right now, you just need some love and support. You just need to know somebody's there for you.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. I love that too. Because I also want to say I love that you ladies are doing that as well. Because also when us ladies get together, okay, if we're not gossiping, well then we're fixing each other.
Oh, I know, I know it, one of the expressions that just kind of sends chills up the back of my spine is like when somebody says, let me tell you what you need to do. And it's like, oh no, I don't need you to do that. The answers are inside me and I will get to them. Right now, I'm just going to share this with you. This is what I feel. I don't need anybody to tell me to fix it. I mean, I was on the phone last week with a good friend of mine, been friends for years and years and years. And we got to talking about something and she said, well, let me tell you what you need to do. And I thought, please do not do this. But I said, okay. And I just, thought, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll do what's best for me. So
there's always a no need to finish the sentence when they start saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not listening. But I think it's twofold. So it's like I once heard someone say that gossip was the poison of the soul.
Ooh, yes. I like that. Yes.
Yeah, and I really do think it is.
Yeah.
Because it's so insidious. You don't catch it. You don't, until but then I also, I like the term or like I would have I had a sign once that said no unsolicited advice.
Yes.
Like no one's asking for advice.
No one. Yeah.
And I'm happy that women are doing that because it's and the poor men out there, the masculine energy, so men, any of you that are listening, if you're around the feminine energy, we really don't want you to fix it often. We just want to be heard, to be seen, to be validated, to be recognized. So that's lovely when other women come together doing it the same for each other. Definitely.
Yeah, it is. So, and I think it's, it's good that we have our time. I think it's so important that as women, we do spend time around that feminine energy because it is important. And to know that we've got that we've got those sisters out there for us. So,
yeah.
And to be able to be yourself, to be able to be vulnerable and be yourself and be accepted just that way. So
that's actually probably more the key too, to be accepted just by who you are. Because like I said, it was different when I got down here, and then it took me like 3 years to realize, the majority of what they were saying was they didn't like the fact that I wasn't keeping up with the Joneses in their minds.
Yeah.
Because I also, Cyndi, I had never felt the need to perform or to be perfect or this or that until I moved down here.
Yeah.
And it was because it was the energy that was being
absolutely
and given to me and verbally to me that I never understood. So to have a place to just be who you are.
Yes.
For people's definitely, and to be able to say what how you feel. I had told Cyndi folks before that we weren't going to talk much about the Reiki because you guys are hearing a lot about Reiki lately. But Miss Cyndi, would you like to talk about that at all?
Just that I feel, I do feel it's important. It was something that I wanted to learn to do. I've been in healthcare for years, just that was my training. But I knew that, first of all, wellness takes a multifaceted approach and not just physical, and didn't like the direction that healthcare overall was going and wanted to get into other things. Knew that, that always I felt that I could sense if somebody where their pain was and to try to help them, but wanted the Reiki training so that I could learn properly how to do it, how to harness that energy and really work with it. Because I think it's important. I know as you do, anytime that we have had injuries, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, if we don't deal with those at the time, they can turn into physical pains. And that's what we see a lot of physical pain. And we do live in a culture that wants to go into a doctor's office and give me a pill for that. And I'm a great believer that we don't need medicine for everything. There's some things we do, and I never tell people to stop your medicine and only use Reiki or whatever other treatments you may use, because there's lots of modalities out there that are healing. but I think they work in combination. There are times when you may need something, but if it's minor pain, do you really need to take something for it? Or can we work with that energy and let the Reiki get in there and trust that process to ease that pain or to bring up issues that you may need to deal with in order to release that pain? Because that's the other part of it, is that sometimes there's something in there that's causing the pain. And what we really need to do is to get to the root of that and help it to be able to release from us, to let it go.
Yeah, I don't believe that people might not know until they experience it for themselves. They might not know that it's more involved than just physical. It's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional. It's clearing a lot of things, or like, you just said, Cyndi, bringing something up to represent like, hey, this is what's causing pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, if my memory serves, you're a hospice nurse, aren't you?
I am. And the one reason I went into hospice was because it is a more holistic approach. And I've learned a lot from my patients over the years. I've been doing it for a long time because that turned into be my passion. And probably in a lot of ways saved my life, because it taught me spirituality in a way that no one else could have taught it to me. But to be with people at that time of life, at the end of life, and to see how, and to be able to see how they handle it. And I've watched, one of the things I always say is that healing occurs on so many levels. And in hospice, you don't see a lot of physical healing, but you see so much emotional and spiritual healing. To watch someone understand that, that they are worthy to be able to leave this world and go to a spiritual world that is welcoming to them, to watch them accept that, to watch forgiveness happen within families where there's been anger and arguments and things go on for years, to watch that be able to happen has been a wonderful experience for me. And in some cases, to be able to be a facilitator for that to happen. I had an older woman, probably close to my age, several years ago, who wanted her mother to wake up and all of a sudden say she was sorry for any pain she had inflicted on her daughter. And so I took her out and sat down with her and talked to her and said, your mother can't do that. But what if you could find some forgiveness in your heart to tell her you forgave her? Well, I don't know if I can do that. So we talked about it a little bit more. And I finally said, I could hold your hand and do that while you do it. And she was able to do it. And we both cried. She just held her mom's hand and she said, I just forgive you for anything that I think you did to hurt me. Because we all make mistakes, and just to have that forgiveness. And it made all the difference in how her mother then could pass. So
yes, I wish, thank you for choosing that occupation. Not everyone can do that, and serve humanity in that way. I try to explain that to people, Cyndi, that you really do, in my humble opinion, I think people really ought to work more on forgiving others, because you never know. And to have it not be present, the forgiveness to not be present, and then that person passes.
Yes.
A whole lot harder.
A whole lot harder.
Yes.
Yeah. There's, if I could share a story with you.
Go ahead.
When I was 24 years old, my cousin was the same age as me. We were 5 months apart, and he was murdered, and it was an unsolved case. And a lot of times he's the person who comes to me in deep meditations to give me messages. And he was at one of the meditations in Sedona. And what he told me was that the only thing that matters is love. That was one of my messages from him, and that he came to me in the physical form that I would recognize him in. And he said, but we don't look like this on the other side. We're just energy. We're just pure energy. And it's just love. And several months later, I was driving down the road and I could feel his presence in the car with me. And we started, and I don't know why I thought about his death and everything that happened, and that it was still an unsolved case from, 30 or 40 years ago. And he said, it wouldn't change anything if you knew, if they solved the case today, it wouldn't change anything. I would still be gone and you would still miss me. And I said, I would. And he said, so why worry about it? And I said, so you have forgiven the person who did this to you? He said, absolutely. He said, you don't have love without forgiveness. And he said, and the forgiveness is for us. He said, it's okay. And then he said, and the truth is, I did some things in my life that contributed to this, and it's okay. He said, I've forgiven that too. But I will never forget that conversation that day, just as like you and I are talking now, where he said, the forgiveness. And he said, and it wouldn't change anything. So why not? Why not forgive him?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Because it's hurting us.
Well, the Dalai Lama says the forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for us because we need that. And that's true. We absolutely, because otherwise, again, holding on to that, what's it going to turn into? It can turn into anger, it can turn into guilt, depression. So many people are walking around holding on to things and needing medicines for depression.
Right. A lot of those who are drinking and using, and it's because they're not forgiven.
Yeah.
Not, and I have to say too, Cyndi, that you've said that twice now, that, all is love. You said it at the beginning, and you also know how, basically everything's illusion. We're creating.
Exactly.
For me, that's how I represent it. I say that the only true, quote unquote, reality is love.
Is love.
It's the only thing that is actually consistent throughout all things. Pain comes and goes, anger comes and goes, joy comes and goes. Everything, life and death really comes and goes. But love, it can be felt.
Yes,
It's
always.
there all the time. So forgiveness allows you to see it just more.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to Miss Cyndi. Ladies and gentlemen, you beautiful stars, if you are local in the Chattanooga area, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, it don't matter. Come on through. We're just over yonder. We are in Ringgold, Georgia, just 20 minutes under Chattanooga for April 29th. I don't have my sign. Oh my goodness. April 29th, 2023. New Earth Energy Market. Oh, Cyndi, I just saw my email. I'm going to say this to you so you can all look for it too. I'll put it up here in the community page. Organized Chaos just sent me their poster. It's wonderful.
They're going to be there?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So groovy and psychedelic. And I was like, this is amazing. So there's live music. There's Cyndi Washington. There's 20 booths. There's belly dancers galore, tons of belly dancers. So Patriots Hall, April 29th, Ringgold, Georgia. Come on down. It's only $5 to get in. That's a great deal. Doors open at 10, doors close at 10. Come early, stay late. So Miss Cyndi, I can't wait to see you, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and this was a pleasure. I hope a lot of people got good stuff out of it, and go breathe, go meditate. Do you have any one last final thing you would like to say, Miss Cyndi?
My only thing is just always remember, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and just be kind to one another.
Oh, kindness. That's the key, folks. So you beloved stars, I will see you later, and thank you for listening. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, share out to everyone. I appreciate you, and have a great night. Bye, Miss Cyndi. Thank you, my dear.
Bye.